266th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the second week of July 2017. This episode is titled Natural Planning Model, GTD Series, Part 2. I'm your host, Jason Howard, and joining me, co-host, after a long week of lots of work, July 4th. How are you doing?
It's a scorcher out there.
It's
I'll
hot.
tell you, it's hot.
Whew. And all the stuff that's going on in the news right now.
Oh my!
Are you? I mean, I'm really.
I
can't
Can you
even
believe it.
I'm not even going to talk about it.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, so let's not. So part 2 of our series is last time on part 1 last week we talked about Capture as our GTD series. Again, if you're the normal listener and you're like, why are they doing this whole GTD thing? We're just doing it for 4 weeks. You can come back. We'll be talking about Salesforce and cloud and Apple, and we'll be arguing and yelling at each other anytime soon. But this is our 4-part series on GTD, diving into some things that we haven't talked about a lot. If you want to listen to the original GTD series from 4 years ago, yes, this podcast is almost 7 years old. You can go listen to episode 132, which is called GTD, Getting Things Done GTD, which we give our whole history and all that. But we're taking a spin and going into some more details on certain topics, and also talking about how they are as part of our kind of more cultural in our company and how we're using it from work and sort of that. So this week, we're talking about the natural planning model. So how do you want to begin? The natural planning model.
I don't know. How do you define the natural planning model?
Nice
Start
punt.
there.
Nice punt.
That was a good punt. I always think of mind mapping when I think of this.
I guess. I mean, David Allen talks a lot about mind mapping. That's his process. Here's the way I describe. So the natural planning model is that your brain, given an outcome, something in the future that you can see that you don't have, something that isn't true but you want to be true, your brain is actually really good at coming up with all the reasons that can't happen. And those are really the project plan. That's the plan to get from A to B. If I said, I'm imagining myself over on the landing. The landing's this place we go that's outside, and I'm having a Schaffenhofer, the beer. I'm sitting there, and I'm like,
good Schaffer.
Right. I'm sitting here right now. I'm like, okay, my brain goes, well, you're not there. So first of all, you have to get there. Well, how do I get there? Well, you have options. Like, do you want to get there fast? Well, take the subway. Where do you take the subway? And my brain will just lead me right through it because it knows. So you kind of sort of think through the process. Oh, no, maybe I want to take the ferry. Okay, well, where's the ferry? Well, I don't know where the ferry is. What time is the ferry? I don't know. Do you know how to get to the planner? Yes. I can pull up my phone. It's on my phone. That's right. Pull it out. Boom. Here's the ferry time. Do I have enough time? Look at my clock. Oh, yeah, I do. Let's go walk out the door. So your brain is really good at getting to, and this is a huge thing in GTD, is the next action. Yep. Right? And it's really, you said in the last podcast last week that you said that capture was so important, and that we'll talk about week review next week, but the next action is such a powerful, powerful tool, and I think it is so hard to get. And I've trained people on it, and I've sat with people, and to get that into your world and to figure out how to get to the actual next action, the one that is the true next action, right, is difficult.
I've heard you have this conversation, right? Where it's like,
with you, was I yelling at you?
No, I've sat in on a number of coaching sessions that you've had here at Arkus, talking to people about GTD,
lucky.
And it's like, you've said, all right, pay your credit card bill. It's like, you can't pay your credit card bill. Like, you can't just look up at the sky and pay your credit card bill, right? Like, you have to do something. What's the first thing you need to do? And like, people, struggle with that. Like, you have to think about it. It's like, well, first you have to maybe know what your credit card bill is. Well, no, that's not really the next thing that you need to do. It's like, all right, like, find my credit card bill, like, right? Like, log in to website where credit card bill is. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
okay, great. How do you do that without a computer?
Right. Like, you could keep going down this path. And I think it's a struggle because you don't want to get too granular with it, right? Like, pay credit card bill shouldn't be a 14-step project.
No.
but it could be a 3-step project. It could be, right?
But so let's bring that into natural planning model, because the important piece of that is, and this is, I guess, anti-capture. And this is where I think people struggle, and I saw you do this in one of your iterations and falling on and off the wagon, was you would get very detailed about your projects. Like, you'd write out the next 7 things that had to be done on the project.
Right.
You'd kind of go, okay, so if it's pay credit card, let's say buy a car. You'd be like, okay, I got to shop for a car. Then I got to evaluate the cars. Then I got to talk to the wife about the cars. Then I got to take road drives in the cars. Then I call my friend about the cars. And you like do like 17 of them. And when I teach people about GTD and using the tools and whatever, I say for any given project, and this is actually true GTD, this is not even my take on it, for any given project, you only really need to have the next thing to do.
That's right.
Don't worry about the thing after the thing, because the thing after the thing will come up because it'll be
informed by the next
and
action.
You certainly don't need to write down stand up, open door, walk out, right? There's a level of them that shouldn't, so when you're thinking about the natural planning model and you talk about that example, yes, it's not open up keyboard, type in thing, right? You're usually putting down the things that are somewhere between 0 and 20 or 2 and 20 minutes worth of work. That's a good, so if you're thinking about how do I think about it, projects are things that are due within a year that are bigger and then need more than one action to do. They can't pay credit card isn't something. You have to do something to pay credit card. Buy car. You don't actually you don't end up with a car. You have to, there's a lot of series of steps. At the end of those series of steps, you have a car. So those are projects. The action should be somewhere between 2 and 20 minutes. 2-minute rule says it shouldn't be under 2 minutes, right? And 20 minutes is a good cutoff to say, don't, if you're saying, I want to write a book, the first one isn't write book. The first project isn't sit down and write book. The first one might be, again, could be 100 things depending how far you are, but it might be write a chapter, write a page, go get a book on writing books. Who knows? But I like to keep those next actions as part of the natural planning model under, again, 2 to 20 minutes is about where I try to keep them, because that makes them also doable. Because if the next action's like, it's a 15-hour long thing, your brain, when you look at it, will just go, it'll go, no, I'm not dealing with it.
Good sound effect.
Yeah, it's a great sound effect.
Good job on the board there.
So it's really interesting getting through natural planning model of how people think about it and getting them trained to go through that little process to kind of get to that thing and to do it. Not so it's like me sitting there going, okay, so you don't have the phone number. Where is the phone number? I got to call my friend. Well, where is your friend? Do you have your friend's phone number? I do. It's on my phone. Is your phone in front of you? Like doing that so they could get it. But then so it just becomes natural. So you just kind of, you can quickly think, well, here's the next thing I need to do.
Right. I love the true next action, like the true capture of just specifically the next thing that I have to do. Because if I just know the next thing that I have to do, it will get me to the next thing that I have to do. And eventually the project that or the objective that I'm trying to solve for and the outcome that I'm trying to achieve will be achievable if I just keep following the next step to get to, and I think that this is also a big part of it, is like seeing the finish, right? I have to understand what the finish is. Like, what is the thing I'm trying to achieve? What is the outcome that I am seeking here? Okay, fine. I can't do that all in one fell swoop, right? I know that. But the first thing that I need to do is this. And going back to last week, let me capture that and get to it with some time constraints around it. Because I know that as part of this, like, I know that I need to achieve this outcome by a certain date. Let me start with this thing because it's the first thing I need to do to get the ball rolling. And it'll make me feel good that I've gotten the ball rolling, and it'll inform me on what the next thing that I need to do is.
Right.
And that just feels better than like an Excel sheet or a Microsoft project plan where I'm quite literally stating like 17 different tasks that are all dependent on 1 or 2 or whatever with a Gantt chart. that just makes my brain hurt.
Right.
And it's hard sometimes, in our industry of working in technology, sometimes there's a clash there where it's like, well, can I get a timeline on that? Or
Right.
can I get a like the date when like that in your mind, it's like, well, that's like 8 actions away,
Right.
like I'm not thinking the same way you're thinking about this. So to get you that date, like I'll give you a date if you need a date and I'll try and work towards it or whatever, but that's not how my brain's going to process getting to the outcome, right? Like all you're asking for is a date. I'm just trying to get a thing done.
Right.
We're on 2 different levels right now.
Roll out Salesforce is the project. Roll out Salesforce to sales team. So, okay, again, in the master planning model, I wouldn't go ahead and put together a Gantt chart and like whatever. I would say, well, let's start at the beginning. What's that mean to you? Well, the envisionment at the end of this is I know I threw a good word in there.
Envisionment,
I threw that one in there.
That's a good one. We'll see if anyone catches that.
They won't. Is I have 12 people on the sales team logging into Salesforce. They're using it. They're logging their calls. They're using Salesforce for leads and opportunity management, activity management, and they're all using it every day as part of their daily sales activity. So that's the outcome. So then you think, well, okay, but where am I now? And then you have to do the dissonance to say, I am nowhere near that. So you have to say, well, how far am I away? I could be at the point where we're almost done, or I could be like, well, we haven't even purchased the licenses. We haven't even researched it. We haven't picked a partner. We haven't, like, whatever it is. So then you'll kind of go back to where you are now. And this is the beauty of it, the brain and the planning models. Your brain will say, well, I see where you want to be, and it doesn't have to be physical, but sometimes it's nice to think about it that way. And I know where I am now, and there's all this stuff in my way. Like, I don't have licenses. Okay, that seems like a good thing. Can you buy the licenses? Yeah, let's buy licenses. Well, how do you buy the licenses? Oh, I don't know how to buy licenses. Okay, so maybe, and a lot of next actions are, go figure it out. As David Allen, I love one of his things, and I'll quote him, whatever. It's his productivity methodology. So he'll say, sometimes the next thing is like, pick up a phone and call somebody at random, or call a friend. What do you know about X? Sometimes I'll find the projects are kind of sitting, not moving forward, and they're just, I see them and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'll see a next action. And I think one of the tricks and the things the tricks that I've learned over the years is to make sure that sometimes that next action just needs to be changed or done differently, or broken down into something even smaller. Because sometimes you're looking at it and you're like, oh, why is this project not moving along? You're like, well, the next action has something either I don't want to do, or I'm not really sure is the right next action. Because a lot of times you have to interface with other people. A lot of the next actions for projects of mine are like, talk to wife. Because honestly, I don't make every decision in my life. Our decisions, a lot of the things in our life we have to make together. So sometimes that's it. Like vacations and stuff like that. It's like, talk to wife. That's the next action. Agenda, Sarah. And it's true, because then that'll remind me to go talk to her, and we'll sit down and we'll have it. And out of that, we can
I'll have tons of actions, but you'll capture them.
I might, but I'll probably capture one, and we'll talk, and she might have some outcomes. Like she might say, oh, I'll do this, and I'll get the tickets, and whatever. We'll look at the dates and whatever, and then we might do a ton that never gets written down. And that's the thing I think people get crazy about GTD. It's like, you don't have to write down more than you need. You just need to write down the next action. And 10,000 things could happen, and then just write down the next one. Right.
And what's the big thing? The big thing is, like, how many actions do you need to capture in a project? And, I mean, the answer is really, like, until you stop worrying about it. Right? Like, if it's one, great.
Right.
Like, all right, if I've captured one thing that I need to do, the next action, to continue to move that project forward, and I'm not worried about it. It's off my mind.
Right.
It'll come to me when it comes to me, because I trust that it will. Then I've done fine in planning that project out. And that seems so weird, right?
It is.
But it's true. If it's off your mind and you're not losing sleep over it, and you're not stressed about it, and you're not worried about it, because you've captured one thing, the next thing you need to do,
Right.
then you've captured and planned the appropriate amount.
Yep. And and the rest of the system will then take care of the. Then this is why, again, we talked in the first episode that you said, if there's one thing that's this, and they all work together really well. You can have different pieces of the puzzle. Like I guess you could have a weekly review if you weren't very good at capture, and I guess you could capture stuff, but not very good at the natural planning model, or there's different, or organized. Like there could be different parts you're not good at. But if you get them all together and they start working and you actually capture very well and you review it weekly and you know how to plan out the real next action, it becomes this very, very powerful thing. And you'll realize, how relaxed you are. And we'll talk about weekly review and like all the great mental things it does for you. But B, how much stuff you can get done. I don't know if you have friends that tell you this, but, I have people in my life who are kind of struck a little bit by the amount of stuff that I have on my plate, and I seem to just sort of like get it done and like it all happens, and I'm like, well, that's not free. I didn't just wake up one morning and have it. I've spent 14 years practicing something and using a tool and doing this because it helps me be better. And if you get really good at it, it's amazing, and you can do a lot, and you can get a lot more things you want to get done in your life and not lose sleep over it and not be stressed out. It's one of my least favorite, stress is something you bring it on yourself, and GTD is a great way of reducing the amount of stress. So anyway, I think the natural planning model is something that people really, really struggle with.
We've had an employee who said to me, I don't know when you sleep. Right. And that's not even seeing like the personal life side of things. That's just seeing the work side of things. And that's where I think, again, the natural planning model works across. It's a really, there's not many models that you can take from work and bring to home.
Right.
There's not many models that you can take from home and bring to work, where it's like, all right, we follow the waterfall methodology for building software. I'm going to follow waterfall at home.
Right.
Really?
For my marriage.
Really?
It's the waterfall marriage.
You're going to do that?
No.
Project plan for like, brushing your teeth? Like what? I mean, that's not a good example, but
take requirements, teeth brushing requirements. Then you go into the development, technical development,
toothpaste, squeeze. Like really? Like, but the idea of this productivity methodology and this model working across your entire life and allowing it to exist within your entire life is where you really hit the sweet spot, because it's like, wow, like, you've said friends of yours, like, how do you get all this stuff done? Or, when do you sleep? How do you, like, really, you take all this stuff on, and then that's not even seeing the half of it. Right. It's like, well, there's home too, by the way.
Well, I think that's it's not part of the natural planning model, but it's something that I have found, again, David Allen saying is that your brain can't separate out work from life. Like your brain tasks, projects, things. If you get in a fight with your wife in the morning and go to work, it's not like when you walk out the door it goes away. Or when you have a bad day at work, it's not like it goes away when you go home. Or when how many times you've been sleepless at night or something, you wake up and you're thinking about a work thing, or you're sitting in the middle of the day and you're thinking about your sick grandmother or something. Like it doesn't, your brain has no ability to keep those two things separate. All things are there all the time, and your brain will want to talk about and think about and bring up everything at all times. It has no control. So that's why a system, if you really think of a good productivity system, it has to be able to work in both places because they affect each other so much. So you have to be able to say, this thing is affecting, my work life is affecting my home life is affecting my work life. It's all just work. It's all just stuff I have to do. Especially nowadays in modern working society and working from home, and like there's, that whole thing, the whole work-life balance. We have to come up with a better way of talking about it, because it's not really about work-life balance. It's about, keeping enough flexibility in your life so you can do both things well. I can do my work well, and I can do my home life well.
I can do life well.
Well,
I'm good at life.
Some people work longer hours, but it's about, if you work 2 hours a day at work, but you're totally stressed, and it was, and you were getting an ulcer because of it. It's not really about how long you're working. It's about what the type of work you're doing and how it's affecting you. You can work 14 hours a day and, be fine. Like, that's fine. That's what I do, and I like it, and I'm happy, and I get to spend the time I want with my friends and family. So it's not necessarily about the amount of hours you do one or the other, because they're all intertwined, and you can do stuff. And now with the internet, you can go off, buy tickets to a show tonight, and then go back and answer 6 emails from work. Like,
it's this internet thing.
I know, the internet. It happens.
You mean I don't need 43 folders?
43 folders. No. You only need 41 folders. We'll talk about 43 folders or tools in the 4th podcast. This is the 2nd, but I think we covered natural planning model.
Yeah.
I think it gave some insight on that. Again, if you can really just hang into that, what's the next physical, real thing that you can do, and can you do it now? Don't tell me that you're going to call the plumber. I'm going to call the plumber. You have to get that thing fixed. Okay, call the plumber now. Do it. Well, I don't have the number. So you can't. That's not the next action. So where's the number? Well, I think my friend has it. Okay, where's your friend?
I think the internet has it.
Right. Well, the internet has it. Okay, are you in front of the internet? Okay, fine.
I'm never in front of the internet. Yeah, it's always around me.
I'm always in front of the internet. So that is really tough. If you can get that, the next planning, the natural planning model is really to get to that next action, and then not go too far with it. Don't try to plan out 17 things. All right, so we'll go back. We'll take another week. We'll come back and we'll get into the weekly review. Get what I did. See what I did there. Until then, it's Justin and Jason saying, enjoy those cloudy days.